Good morning. It's Monday again, which means it's time for another Monday morning map build. And I'm Tailz from Studio Wildfire. I hope you're all doing well. So I'm back in Foundry after Monday's. This is the map that I made on Monday using the dungeon map tiles core pack, or the original pack that I created. Recently I uploaded to the Foundry store the dungeon map tiles 2 pack of art assets, which adds to all of this. So I thought today I'd start off today with making pardon me, a adventure map just like this, using the art assets from Dungeon Map Tiles 2. Let me just zoom back around. There we go. So let's get rid of all this stuff. Let's delete. Well, actually, I know what I'll do. Instead of deleting all this, let's just go to our scenes. Let's delete our scene. Delete. There we go. So we now have a blank world with no scene in it. So let's create one. I'm going to call it Dungeon Map Tiles. Oops, so I can type Dungeon Map Tiles 2 test and create scene. So this is what you will see when you are setting up a scene or an adventure map for the very first time. On this window, pretty much leave it as is. I like to set my zoom to 1, which means 100%. Then you'll need to go to the grid, leave it as square, but change it from the default grid size of 100 to 180. There we go. Now, this gets to be the fun part. Scene dimensions. This is how many pixels by how many pixels your map or the scene that this act in your adventure will take place on. Now, this has to be in multiples of 180. It doesn't have to be, but if you want your scene map to match up to the grid squares, it's best to just, make it in multiples of 180, because you're going to have 180 pixels per each 5 foot, and that's set down here in the grid scale. So 5 foot distance per each grid square. So it's going to be 180 pixels per each 5 foot grid square. So I like to just grab out my calculator. And so let's just say we're making an 8 by 8 map. I'm just pulling a number out of the air here. So we go 180 pixels times by 8 equals. So that's 1,440. So let's do that for the width. Let's say we're doing it different size. So then we go for the height. Let's just go. So we go 180 times by, let's go 11. Oh no, let's do it slightly smaller. Let's go 7. So 1,260. So I'm just doing a little map, just as a demonstration. So you set those numbers there. You'll have to unclick this box because that's the that links the dimensions together. Unclick that and you can put different numbers in each box. The rest of this you can pretty much leave as is. Then go save changes. It'll give you this little confirmation. Go yes. And here we go. Here is our scene. Now, one thing I forgot to do, I usually see how it's got this border. If you have a look in the setup on grid, you'll see this padding percentage. That's that. That is the padding percentage is like this border. It can sometimes be useful if you need to stage assets outside your scene map, because you can you can put them here and they'll be outside the scene. But I usually don't need to stage things, so I just set down to 0, save changes, and there we go. There is our map. Now, if you're new to using Foundry, the controls are pretty simple. So your mouse button wheels, or the mouse wheel, zooms in and out. As you can see, you move the map around by clicking and holding the right mouse button, and then you place things. So for example, these lights, because they happen to be in the light menu, by clicking and dragging. So let me just get rid of these lights. So let's just get rid of that one, and that one. Okay, so usually when you're map building, or pretty much anything you're doing to manipulate this canvas, you're going to be in this little menu here up the right hand column, and it starts off, it's got token controls. You're going to be using that when you're putting tokens like player tokens, monsters, that sort of thing onto your scene canvas. Next one is measurement controls, and it's self-explanatory. You're measuring distance, like you're coming along and you're going, I'm measuring from here to here, that sort of stuff. Let's get rid of that. Next, this is the most important one for building with map tiles, and it's called tile controls. That's where we're going to be placing, and we'll do it in just a moment, tiles upon the map canvas. So you click on that one, and you notice that the second column of icons will change. Each of these little, as you see, as I press on each one, the column changes. The second column changes. So when I click on token controls, there's a different bunch of controls. Click on measurement, different bunch of icon controls. Click on tiles, again, different bunch of little controls. So where we highlight tile controls, now the first one up the top here is select tiles. Self-explanatory. All of them are pretty much self-explanatory, and they have this cool little window that pops up that gives you a guide, and it shows you all the options. So for example, there's oops, I can't mouse over them, but I'll just, so there's select is click or drag, click drag, so you could click drag, or you could just select, click on it. Multiple select is hold shift and click on multiple items. To move them, you just drag them. So it's click and drag, rotate, shift and scroll, or control and scroll. But yeah, they're all listed there. That's manipulating individual tiles that you have placed. Next up is tile placement. Now that's it's pretty much the default operational mode. So although you can click on it, you're pretty much in this mode all the time. Next up is the tile browser. This is the important bit. This is the bit that we're going to be working with most. You're going to have it open, and you're going to use it to browse the map tiles that you'll be putting onto the adventure map. And again, it's a pretty much self-explanatory little window. Up the top here, you have your main file location. So, for example, we're going to go into modules, Dungeon Map Tiles 2, and you see here at the top, it tells you the file path. That's that section there. That's self-explanatory. You can add it to your favorites. I don't really need to. You can filter it. Display mode is, so let's just jump into a folder that has some. Okay, so we've got it into a folder that has some art assets. Display mode is pretty easy. List view, you're never going to be viewing in this list view, because you want to see what you're looking at. Next up is thumbnail view. It's okay. Again, I never use it. I want to see what I'm actually clicking on. Tile view is pretty much the view you're going to be using the most. Each art asset is displayed as a little thumbnail in a square, and you can just go through the entire contents of a folder. So for example, we're in outer walls, which is outer walls, the walls outside of your building. So if I just grab one and I'll place it down on the map. Whoops. Let me just move that over. There we go. So outer walls is, here's the outside of your building, and here's the wall of your building. Now, it's a bit important to explain at this point in time that this Dungeon Map Tiles and Dungeon Map Tiles 2 are some of my earliest adventure map building art asset packs. Now, in the early days when I first started to create these, PNG files, or files that had art files that included transparency, were still in their infancy. And this one here has transparency, but I was still quite new to using it. I probably didn't use the functionality as good as what I do now. Because you can see, you get this little cutout here is transparent, same as this little cutout here. So you're going to put material there. What I do now is I have overlay tiles of just the wall. See, it'll be the wall and then the shadowing of the wall. It will not be a combined tile of the wall and the floor anymore. I've separated them in newer versions of the packs, but this is an older pack. It has received a little bit of an update, so there are art assets that have the walls extracted, but the original and majority of the pack is older, so there are a lot of tiles where the floor and the wall artwork are combined. This can mean that it can be a little bit trickier to sort of put things together, but it's still a really good pack as far as I'm concerned. So let me just get rid of that little tile. The majority of the tiles are a single grid square of artwork. Some of them are 2 grid squares or more. So for example, these curved wall pieces, that's a 2x2 map tile, because the curved wall required, the extra artwork. Most of the tiles, for example, if I grab this one here, they're a map tile that is just a 5 foot by 5 foot area of artwork. That's the majority of the tiles in the map tiles packs. But anyway, yeah, so this window is what you're going to be using the most. You're going to be in here looking at these, shuffling through, grabbing out your art assets, and using them is quite literally just click, drag, drop. That's it. All you got to do is drop it on the map canvas, and then you just click, drag, put it wherever you want. You're not going to need to rotate them. You're not going to need to flip them around or anything like that. The whole idea of map tiles is that you just plonk them down and put them into the position that you want, and then grab the next one. So for example, if you wanted to quickly build a tower, you grab that piece, probably not that one because that's wrong. You grab this one, oops, put it over there, maybe then grab this one, put it over here. It's quite quick to start building up the essence of what you're trying to build. So I just delete those, and to delete them, all I'm doing is I just select it. So, oops. So if you're in that mode up the top, so the select tiles, you can drag out. So dragging out, if you want to deselect something, dragging out that little square, the multi-select, is a good way to deselect things. But if you want to get rid of things, you just select it. Little orange line comes up showing it's selected. You just press delete and it's gone. So that's pretty much how this is going to work. So, one thing I will advise you of is how to find your art assets. So let's go to game settings. The first thing you're going to need to do is to manage the modules that you have in your game. So here's a bunch of modules that I have. I currently have the dungeon map tiles set to on, and I have dungeon map tiles 2 set to on. I have the original one set because that's what I was actually using during the last stream, but I just set this one on because, you know, I'm showing how this one works. So you click them to show that they're on, and then you hit save modules. It'll load, and away you go. You can quickly navigate to the compendium packs, look for a folder called, you know, probably be hidden, but if it's not hidden, it should be Studio Wildfire map tile packs, and you should see that there should be 2 map tile packs here. Click on Dungeon Map Tiles 2. And there we are. Oops, I don't know why it's not showing up. Yeah, there should be a README file. I have to check why that's not showing up. The README file will tell you that in order to find your art assets, you go to, and it's just written here in the README file, so accessing art assets. So Foundry data modules, and then the name of the pack, so it would be Dungeon Map Tiles 2, this one's Dungeon Map Tiles, and then images. That's where you find your art assets. I'll have to work out why that is not showing, because it should be showing up here. I have to work out why that is. Okay, so that's in modules. You don't really need to do anything with that. It's just a, you know, it's a README file. It's just giving you a description of where to find things. So you go back to our scenes. So this is the scene that we're working on. Okay, so we click on tile controls in the left column here. Click on the tile browser, which gets this guy up, and we're in. Let's just jump back to images. There we go. Now, what I like to do when I'm map building in any program, I like to put the file browser over here on the side, and I usually like to make it a bit bigger, but it's not letting me do that. Okay. But it's just a case of getting your file browser out, clicking, you know, finding the files that the images that you like, and plonking them onto the map. So let's actually start making a adventure map. So let's start with some walls, and we'll do like a small. Let's do a very small building. So let's put that over there. That one up there. This one over here. This one over here. I have no actual plan on what I'm building. I'm just putting stuff down. So let's grab an entrance. It's one of these. So we'll put an entrance. Let's put an entrance there, and let's have a side entrance up the top here. Let's put it there. Now we need some walls to enclose our building. So here we go. Or do we want to put some windows? Let's put some windows. There we go. So let's pop that window there. And let's have a window around the side. Put it there. And around the other side. There like that. And then we'll have one. Let's have one about there. Now we want to close off our walls around our whole building. So we want this there, and that one there, and then we want this one and this one. There we go. And grab that, put it there, and then this one can go there. So we need one just here. So that's the outside of our building. So I'm just zooming in a little bit. Okay, so we want to do the inside. So what we want to do is we want to look for our walls. Here we go. Here's our internal walls. Now, as I said, this is one of my earlier packs where everything was combined. It had combined artwork. So, for example, the walls and floor are combined. So, as you can see, the wall and the shadowing onto the floor. There are, if we go back up, we have a look at outer. No, that's what we just were. Upper level walls. This is where these are assets that are just the wall, although there are some assets that include, so for example, these windows where they have the shadowing that's falling over the floor, but it's also got lighting. They are combined simply because the lighting, in order to get the lighting to work and look right, so same as these ones around here, in order to have the lighting look right, they were actually combined. But you know, you can separate them out these days. But you can, using these tiles, so you can just go and put it down like that. They are pretty good because it allows you to overlay the floor tiles. So for example, if I get rid of that and I come back up the top just to the basic set. Now the basic set is just a tileable floor. So we could have, you know, we could just fill in this floor area with this tileable texture. And then we could, if we go back up, go to our upper level walls, we could just use these walls to come along and go over the top of this texture. Let's have a look here. How could we do that? So we go and put this one. Okay, just grab it, move it in place. Like that. So we're just overlaying these over the top of the floor tiles that are already there. Pardon me. Let's make this here. Now, if you're doing this, it's a good idea to put the floor down first rather than the walls, then the floor. Because otherwise, if you do the walls first, for example, if I go and put this here, just as an example, and then I come along and I put the floor on, whoop, the walls disappeared. It's actually still there. It's an ordering thing with the tiles, because we put the floor down. So we put the floor down after we put the wall down. So it's covering it. This means that we need to change the layer order. How do we do that? So we go up to select. Well, actually, is it this one? Place time. No. I don't remember how to do this. Ah, there we go. I always forget how to do that. Okay, so we select our tile. We then right click on our tile, which will bring up these controllers. In order to change the levels that this one is over the top of this one, we need to use these two buttons here. Bring to front and send to back. So if you click on this one, right click, you get the same options. Now, Foundry, when you're map building, you don't really have a layers palette that shows you that this one is above this one. It basically just looks at it, and you right click to bring these controls up. If you hit bring to front, it brings it to the front of everything. If you hit then to back, sends to the back of everything. There's no, oh, I want to send it to just under this one or whatever like that. It's just, it's going to the top, it's going to the bottom. Usually that's all you're going to need. So if you end up with situations where, for example, this tile is over the top of this wall and you want the wall over the top of the floor, just right click on this one, hit the little tab button, hit the right click to bring this menu up, and then hit that button there, bring to front, and it'll now be at the front, and it'll now be over the top of this floor. That's usually all you need to do. So for example, just move that floor over and then put the bit of floor, boop, then like that. Let's do the same over here. So again, I'm going to put the floor pieces down first, like that. And then I'm going to go to my upper level wall tiles, and I'm going to grab a corner. Just got to find where it is. There it is. And then I need to put some cornerstones, which are just these ones here. They look like they're empty, but that's because they only have a piece of artwork right in the very corner. And it just caps off the wall. Otherwise, your wall looks like it comes to a complete stop there, which just looks a bit weird. So you just grab corner, do that. There we go. Now we need a piece of wall here and a piece of wall, oops, this one, just there. And then we need to close off there, like that. So there we go. So that's our entrance to our building. There's a room here. There's a room here. Now, what are we going to do here? So instead of using these can be a bit easier for building, but because this is one of our older packs, I'm going to show you some of the older pieces. So we just go up and we go to walls. Deceptive name. It's actually walls and floors combined, but it's just called walls because originally when I was building this, it was all about putting down walls. But okay, let's just say we're going to have a curved wall here. But that looks a bit weird. Let's go for a slightly smaller curved wall. We want one of these because this is because there should be two curved wall sets. So these should be, we just come down to here. Yeah. So if you look at the name, large tower, that's actually a 10-foot curve. There should be one called small tower. There we go, small tower. They're actually 5-foot curves. Just needed to do that because I couldn't tell the difference with just the image. So let's use this to make the building look a little bit more interesting. Okay, there it is. The file sorting sometimes can make it quite fun to find some of the pieces. So here we go. We've got a bit of a curved wall coming in. Makes it look a lot more different. And we could, let's just say it just curves around like that. And let's do the same thing around here. Where are we? There we go. That's the one we want. But let's make it over here. So then we come along. We put that one in there. So see how it's a combined, it's floor and wall. I kind of like using the floor and wall together because it means that you're not doubling up on workload. You're not putting it on the floor and then putting it on the wall, but doing the floor, then doing the wall means you can mix and match a lot more pieces. Let us grab. Okay, let's finish off. So we're going to put that there. So we've got like a little room here, a little circular room, and then a larger room here. And we're going to have a corridor coming up here. So see how I need to add in the wall here, but this tile doesn't let us. That's where the overlays come in. They can come in quite handy. You'll also notice that there are times when you have odd. So for example, if we're using the old tiles and we need to have a wall here, but a cornerstone here, that's where you'll see these odd walls. If you have a look in here, oh, that's for the external odd walls. Where did I put? So oh, that's outer walls, not. I thought I had one called. Oh, I must not. Oh, but we can make them anyway. So all we do is just grab floor tile, plonk, plonk. See, if you ever get in trouble, you can just use the modular pieces. So you just go 2 floor tiles, grab the upper level walls, scroll through. So we just need a cornerstone here, which is this one, plonk. And then we need other side as well. So grab that one, plonk, just there. Then we need to cap off the wall on this side. Dunk, dunk, dunk. There we go. So that's that section done. Now we just need to do through here. Again, I'm going to go and grab a basic floor tile. Plonk it there. Come back up. Grab my upper level walls. So we need to cap off the doorway. So we just scroll down. Here we go. Grab that one there and that one there. We then need to have to cap off this wall. So we need a little end corner there and an end corner just on the other side. We're going to need an end corner here, like that. And then, if I grab the right pieces, then a piece of wall there and a piece of wall there to make that passageway. Then we've got just this section here. So again, I'm going to grab some basic, so a bit of floor with a bit of blood on it, and then a floor over here, and then we need just a edge just here. And this is pretty much going to be our little dungeon done. And then we can start adding in dynamic lighting. So let's grab that and plop it there. So that is our small little dungeon map completed. Now here comes the fun bit, adding in dynamic lighting. So we leave all that there like that, or what you can do, actually I'll try this out. Select everything. Boop. So that should be everything selected. Good. And then I'm going to right click and lock them all. There we go. So now I shouldn't be able to, accidentally grab and drag them around. There we go. So see, each time I click on one and then I try to drag it around, I get a little orange warning box here saying cannot move tile object while it is locked. So unlock them. Simple. Select it. Right click. Click on that little icon, that toggle state. And that will unlock it. And then we can move it around. But we want it locked so that we can do some more editing and not accidentally move things. Now, my only criticism of Foundry, and if the guys from Foundry are watching, it's just constructive criticism. I find highlighting things on a number of your objects or icons not as intuitive as you would think they are. So for example, that icon actually doesn't change between states. I'll show you what I mean. So if we click on this, that little lock icon remains the same regardless of whether the item is locked or unlocked. The only thing it gets is a little highlight around the edge of the button. Personal preference here, maybe change the icon so that when it's unlocked, the icon itself actually looks like a lock, where the little hinge up the top is not actually locked. Or like how you've got over here, where when you highlight things on some of these buttons, they actually show up highlighted. That would be a better, but that's my only criticism of this program. Other than that, it's great. Yeah, because sometimes when you just quickly look at it, like, yeah, it's got a little border, but sometimes, you know, when you quickly look at it, you don't really take that much notice of the border. But that's just my constructive criticism. It'd be a very easy fix, I think. But anyway, so we have made our map. Now we want to add some dynamic lighting, so it looks pretty cool. We do that by dropping down to wall controls. That is this icon here. So we click on that. Again, the second column of icons changes. Now, this is the fun part. As you can see with this little mouse over, it shows you the creation of the dynamic lighting data points, or the information where it tells the dynamic lighting to stop, or where there are walls. So let's get rid of the image and video browser. Get rid of that, close that down. So we highlight it with that one, wall controls. Now we want to add in basic walls. I made a bit of a snafu last time I made a live stream, and I actually used terrain walls. If you read the description, it says blocks sight between beyond the second wall, movement and hearing. That's because terrain walls are meant to represent pieces of terrain that, like, it could be a hill, or it could be a raised section that your character could get on. So, for example, if you could get on top of a hill, you can see everything around you. But if you were on one side of the hill, you can't see something that's on the other side of the hill because it's blocking you. But if you're on top, you can see everything. That's sort of what terrain walls are meant to do. Actual walls are the basic walls. That's what we're going to be using now. So you click on that icon. Again, this is my only little thing. See how it's got a little red, like a little orangey red border? That shows you that you're in that mode. Let's just say that. I wish they would do something like this button down at the bottom here, which is force snap to grid vertices. Really helpful, but sometimes it gets in the way. I leave that on all the time. But see how it's got like a tint? It's got like a slightly purple tint. I wish they would do that with the modes that you currently have selected. That's my only gripe that I was going on about. Okay, but anyway, so we click on that, and what we want to start doing is drawing out where our walls are going to stop our light. And because we have this option clicked on, it means that our lines can snap to our grid lines. So for example, I just drew out that one, just mouse over it, and you can see that it's snapping to our grid lines. Really, really cool. Makes map building very easy. So just come up here and we just go, click, drag. There we go. Click, drag. Now this is the interesting bit, because we have a window here. We've actually got windows here, and we've got a bit of a curved wall. So what you want to do is you want to go like that, then like that. So we're going to put in a different line here, and then what we want to do is click about here and go to there, click about here and go to there. So this is where we're going to have an extra line, which will be our window control. But, you know, we're going to go around to the rest of the place and fill it in. There to there. Roughly there. Oops. I sometimes find it better to draw in a line, so for example like that, just somewhere out of the way, and then mouse over and move the control points to where you want them, just like that. It's just personal preference. It's, you know, you will find a way of doing it that works for you. That just happens to work for me. Curves are a bit of an interesting thing. I have a tendency to sort of draw the middle, get it roughly where I want it, and then put in extra pieces just like that. Whoops. And that's my curve. So again, over here, do that. Now I'm going to move this one back to here. And again, draw in a bit, extra bit. That, draw in an extra bit, and get it in position. And that's our curve. These straight bits are pretty much easy. So again, just align it up. Whoops. There we go. So that's coming along how we want it. So we just want a straight line here, and then draw a curve here, and then just add in pieces like that. Again, this is just the way I feel comfortable doing this. You will find your own method for doing it. This one's pretty easy. You just want to go from there to there. And then we've got that one like that. That to there. And then we've got this one can go all the way to the window edge. Go to there like that. So it looks a bit weird at the moment with these lines, and don't worry, these lines will not show up in when you actually use it. This is just data for the lighting system. Okay, and you're only seeing it because you're in the wall controls system. So if we click out, so if we go to, like, you know, token controls, whoop, there they go, gone. Can't see them. So you can only see it when you're in the wall controls. So we've just put in our walls. Now, there are two things you're going to need to want to add next: doors and windows. And they work pretty much the same way as to what we've just done, but we want to be in a different mode. But I'll explain some of the other ones, some of the other modes now as well. So we've got the terrain walls, which I explained just a moment ago, which is terrain that is blocking line of sight. But if you can get, say, for example, in it or on top of it or whatever like that, you can see all the way around it. Oh, pardon me. So that's the best way of thinking of terrain walls. Hills are a prime example, because you can get on top of a hill or like a raised platform. If you climb on top of the raised platform, you can see all the way around it. But if you're on one side of the raised platform, you obviously can't see what's on the other side of the raised platform. So that's the good way of using terrain walls. Invisible walls are, they're invisible walls. They don't actually stop line of sight. You can see straight through them because they're an invisible wall, but they do block movement. Then we've got ethereal walls. I'm gonna admit, never really used ethereal walls that much, so I don't know how to use them. I think the objective with an ethereal wall is that it blocks line of sight, but you can move through it freely. I rarely use them, if ever. Doors. You'll be using doors a lot, because obviously you've got doors. Now, I haven't put any artwork for doors on here, but if we're going to go and put some doors in, so for example, there would be a door here. So let's highlight the draw door mode, draw in a door, or draw in the line for a door, and again, just draw it in, drag and drop it to where I want it. So that's where my door would be. Same thing over here, just draw it in and then drag it to exactly where I want it. So I've now got my doors in. Now, the next one after doors is secret doors. Now, these are pretty cool, and you can get some interesting effects when you combine them with interesting artwork. So if you make like a secret door, so let's do something interesting. Let's turn this into a secret room, this little area here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to our tile controls, back to our tile browser. I am going to select this. I'm going to unlock it, and then I'm going to delete it. Same thing with this one. Unlock it, delete it. So same thing with that that corner token. Unlock, delete. Unlock, delete. And then I'm just going to put in so let's put in corner like that. Okay, so now technically this room looks like it's blocked off entirely, but we're going to treat this as a secret door. So we lock those. Okay, now let's go back to our wall controls, and let's get rid of the tile browser again. So our walls come around like this, but we're going to put in a secret door. So this is where we select our secret door, put in a secret door. See how it's a different color? So that's normal doors. This is a secret door. And I'm going to pop it right there. So that should look like normal wall, unless we find out how to open it. Now, we've added in our normal doors. We've added in a secret door. Now let's go to our windows. Windows are, it's as you would expect. They can block movement, which obviously, because these are quite so narrow, they're going to block large things going through it. But they will, depending whether they're open or closed, they can let the light from outside, or they can let people look in from outside. And they operate the exact same for placement as all the other things that we've been making. So all we do is we highlight Windows walls, draw it out, and then again, click, drag, put it into position. There we go. And then we do that for each of our windows. So it's pretty easy. Just like that. And where else are we? Over here. And this one. Like so. And over here, I think this is our last window. There. Whoops. I wanted to click into that position. There we go. So we've now got all of our wall information in place. We've covered basic walls, terrain walls, invisible walls, ethereal walls, doors, secret doors, windows. This one down here is clone walls. So we could effectively select all this and then clone it. I hardly ever use that, if ever. The next button down here is Force Grid Snap, where it will snap to the grid points. You'll also notice that as I'm drawing, hang on, let me just go to basic walls. As I'm drawing out these lines, so if I draw that here, you'll notice that it seems to be clicking into like a grid, like a little mini grid within the grid. If you don't like that, you can hold down. Is it hold down? Oops. Hold down Shift as you're dragging, and it'll stop clicking to, or stop snapping to the grid. See how it's nice and fluid? Whereas if I don't have Shift held down, see how it's clicking, it's snapping to like a little unseen grid. That unseen grid can be good, but sometimes you want to get like the positioning really, really perfect. So yeah, hold down Shift as you're moving the points. There we go. But generally, you're not going to need to do that. Quite often, close enough is good enough. But if you want that extra granularity of control, just hold down Shift. What I might do is I might grab that and make that there like that and do that. So that way we've got a point that these are snapping together on. Okay, oops, didn't want that there. Okay, all of our dynamic line data is in position. Last thing on this column, so this clear walls is quite obvious. If you select a bunch of, so if I click, select a bunch of stuff, and I hit that little trash can, it'll delete all the stuff that I have selected. I'm not going to do it because obviously I don't want to do it. But the second bottom last icon, close all doors, that's important if you have any doors in your scene. So for example, these ones, they will be considered closed and blocking line of sight when you go and look at the map. So if we come up here to token controls, so see, here we go. See these little icons? They're telling us that there's a door there, or that there's door data there, and we can open it. So for example, I clicked on it, this little icon changed to say this door is open. You can now pass through it, but you can also see through it. Very important. So I'm going to close that. The same is also true for the windows, but I think the windows operate a little differently. Okay, now we're pretty much done on building most of our map. We've got our wall data in, but we want to add in lighting. So in this column, we come down to lighting controls, and we click that. Again, set of icons changes. Now, I like to, when you first set up your scene will be in what is considered to be sunlight or daylight. And you'll see on these icons here, there are two icons. This one here is called transition to daylight. This one here is called transition to darkness. And they do exactly what is on the label. They transition between one light state to the next. But when you create your map, it's considered to be in daylight. So what I like to do when setting up my lights is I like to transition my maps to darkness. So all you do is you click on it and watch. Slowly it darkens. Ooh, it's gone to night time. I like to do that because the lights are better and easier to understand than in darkness than they are in daylight. So in order to create lights, we have a couple of controls. Up the top here, draw a light source. So we click that one. And what you do is where you click and drag. So you click, creates the light, and then dragging starts to create how far the light source will influence. So, or how much light it's shedding in the scene. You can come back and change it numerically, but sometimes it's good to just, sort of like go, I want it to be about that much, and then you release, and you can see two things. First, it creates this icon at the origin of the light. Secondly, it creates this polygon that's just showing you the extent of the light, and you can see that it's being affected. If I just zoom in, it is being affected where our wall controls are. So if I quickly just switch over to our wall controls, see, this is where all of our walls and door data and window data is. So you can see that's where it is. If I go back to our lights, it's affecting how our light fills the scene, and it's affecting how it creates shadows. So if I just click and drag this light around, again, if we don't want it to snap to the grid, hold down shift and you can get a little bit more control. So you can see the windows control how the windows and walls control how the light fills our scene. So that's how that works. That's dynamic lighting in play. And you'll see if I go up to control tokens, I'm going to open this door. I'm now going to come back to the lighting control. See how now the light is going out through the open doorway? So that's how, oops, I just hold down shift. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So that's how, we get to control our scene lighting. And that's how dynamic lighting sort of fills our scene. So you can see, let's just assume we've got a character walking around with a lantern. They'd be coming along, they'd be able to look through the windows. Ooh, we can sort of see through there. Oh, but this doorway is open. I can see a lot through there as I'm holding my lantern, and we can see how the light affects the scene of what we can see. Same as we come around here. Yep, oh, we can see through this window. Ooh, what can we see? But this doorway, this doorway's closed. We just look through this window. What can we see? So, let's just assume. Oh, and you turn the lights off by right-clicking on them. And then you can adjust the lights, all the details of the light, so if you just double-click, just left double-click on the light, this panel will come up. And this is the controls for that particular light. So it gives you the XY coordinates on the map. It gives you the elevation. Generally, elevation is 0. You don't need to play around with the elevation too much. I've found elevation really comes important when you have multi-level sort of maps or characters that are flying and that sort of thing. Generally, I never touch it. Most of my maps that I create are single level. you're not going to need to worry about it. Light radius is going to be the most important thing. So it's got two settings: dim light, bright light. So let's set dim light to 20. Press enter, and you'll see that the amount of light, the amount of distance of dim light, I'll put it in this room. There we go. So we can see the dim light is actually going quite a fair way before it gets cut off. Actually, hang on, I'll put it out here so that we can see, okay, it's going a fair way, because that control that I set, where is it? So 20, that's 20 feet. So remembering that each of our grid squares is 5 feet, so that's 5, 10, 15, 20. So that's a 20-foot dim light. The bright light is then, it's how much light it takes up within that dim light area. So by setting it to 10, so that's 5, 10, so that's the edge of our bright light. So the bright light is within the distance of our dim light. So if we bring our dim light down to, say, like 15, oops, no, not 150, 15. The bright light is staying at 10 out here, but we've only got a fall off of 5 feet from the edge of our bright light to the edge of our dim light. So it's sometimes it's something you want to play around with. So let's set that. So I think candlelight, if this was a candle, I think it has dim foot at a 10, then bright light 5 feet. I think that's a candle. Dim light to 10 feet, bright light to 5 feet. Candles are pretty cool because they don't shed much. Like, they shed a bit of light, but not too much. Okay, next controls that we want to look at. Constrained by walls. Pretty obvious. Unclick it. It's going to ignore the line data that we put in for our walls and windows and doors. Leave that selected. So that way it's taking account of that data. Emission angle is just move it around. So if you're making like lights that are directional, like let's just say you're making a lantern with a aperture. So commonly bullseye lantern. There we go, bullseye lantern. So if you're making a bullseye lantern, it's going to have a 45-degree aperture facing in a particular direction. Just like that. You know, we have to spin this all the way around. Now, this can be a cool way of making sensors. If you're playing sci-fi games, these emission angles can be a good way of depicting a sensor. Because what you do is you give it a emission angle, and then you change the color. So let's just say, let's make it red. So boom, there we go. We now have a sensor, and then we can come along, range, deactivation range, color intensity. So you can play around with all these settings. I usually don't. I usually leave them. I'm quite simple in most of my settings. So if you were making like a sensor, this would be one way of doing it. Then what you would do is you would give it in advanced options, you give it oops, sorry. So that's all in basic configuration. In light animation, give it a effect. So for example, we could go swirling rainbow. So there you go. There's an interesting emanation. So you could say that that is if I just get out of here. Go back to token controls. So you could say that that is a special, a special light. Well, actually, hang on, I didn't save my changes. So let's give it. Who was it? Snap reactive pulse? No. It was. Let's use that one. Starlight. Then we had it as a 45 degrees. So there we go. It's like that's like a scanner. And then we changed the light. Let's make it blue. Let's make it purpley color. So there we go. And then we save that. Get out of it. So there we go. So you could use that to make like a sci-fi scanner that's scanning a particular area. But this isn't a sci-fi. This isn't a sci-fi map. So let's change that back to just a standard light. Actually, I'll get rid of it. We'll make a new one. Just going to make it there. I'm then going to just make it dim light is 10 feet. Bright light is 5. I'm going to change its animation. And there's a drop-down list for all the different animations. Let's just make it a torch. Give it the torch, where it sort of pulsates. See how it's pulsating? You can change the speed and the intensity. I generally like to leave it alone. And that could be a candle. So we could say, that there's a desk. Pardon me. There's a desk over here that has a light. Oh, pardon me. Now, if you want to copy lights, as I just did just then, what you do is you select your light, you hit Control C, which copies it, and then when you hit Control V, it puts that copy under where your mouse pointer currently is. So let's just say I've got maybe there's a light on the wall in there, and maybe in here there's a light on the wall just there. Let's just create another candle, and maybe there's one on the wall just here. Let's give it another one. Maybe there's a light in there, and create another one here. Maybe there's a light, just on the wall, on the other side of the wall to there. So there we go. We have lit our scene. And the interesting thing is, if you come down here, here is that secret door. So at the moment it's closed, but let's just say we opened it. Let's actually go back to our lights. So if it was opened and we had a character who's wandering around, so I'm going to use this light to represent that it's a character with a light. You would see, oh, he passes through, and his light is showing through that area. It actually becomes a lot more interesting if you have overlays that you can turn off and on that show the secret passageway is open, or perhaps this is an enchanted wall and the wall fades in and out. But basically you have just built your adventure map. You're ready to play in it, and you're ready to use it for your adventure. I hope this has been educational, showing you how to use dungeon map tiles and how to get the most out of them. If you have any questions at all, please join me on my Discord, ask me in person, or post me a message if I'm not in there. Yeah, I hope you've had a lot of fun watching how to build adventure maps in Foundry with dungeon map tiles too. Thank you for watching. Catch you next time.